This is the Fitzy and Whipper with Kate Ritchie podcast.
Former One Direction singer Liam Payne has died in Argentina.
The British musician's body was found outside a hotel.
We know that he returned to the hotel and that he was behaving erratically.
The authorities there have confirmed he died after falling from the building's third floor.
All right, we're going to cross to Ashley Mullaney in a second. She's Channel 7 News Europe correspondent. We're just getting her back on the line now. It's pretty full on at the moment.
Do you know, Fitz, watching yesterday too, because, I mean, the algorithm of all the social media platforms just continued to serve up Liam Payne footage and moments from the past, you know, from his first audition on Britain's Got Talent to the most recent, which was just on TikTok, where he was sitting at the breakfast buffet in Argentina with his girlfriend, and this was just days ago.
Morning, everybody. It's a lovely day here in Argentina. This is the breakfast table.
I'm just eating an orange.
Just enjoying coffee and breakfast, even though it's like 1 p.m.
Literally, we sleep in every day until at least 12. We're such losers.
No.
No.
It's fun because it was real, but it was in Argentina a couple of days ago. So we also saw the footage of him at Niall Horan's concert, meeting some fans. But what happened between then and I suppose close to this time yesterday is devastating.
Let's find out more. Channel 7 Europe correspondent Joel Dry joins us now. Joel, we have seen some vision and also some photos that are quite distressing from Liam Payne's hotel room. Can you just update us a little bit there, Joel?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Pretty distressing scenes. They were taken from inside his Buenos Aires hotel room, and it shows, you know, a trashed room, essentially. There is damaged equipment, damaged furniture, a general mess, and troublingly also what was found is what seems to be drugs and alcohol. We have received some details on the autopsy of the body of the 31-year-old former One Direction star. What it shows is that he suffered 25 serious injuries, all consistent with a fall from a great height, the most serious, of course, being that to his head, which in and of itself would have been enough to cause the fatality. That's perhaps, you know, not surprising, the results of that, given he fell from the third floor balcony. But what we're still waiting on is the toxicology report. So that will give a bit of an understanding whether or not substances were at play, and that further on will give an idea of perhaps whether he was conscious or unconscious. That paints a picture of whether we're talking suicide or perhaps a really tragic accident. As I said, drugs and alcohol were located in the room that was trashed. And we've also heard from other guests, other staff at the hotel that said in the sort of hours and moments leading up to the tragedy, there were some pretty distressing noises, some shouting, enough for one of the hotel manager to actually contact police and say, look, we have a guest in here. We know that there are drugs and alcohol in the room. We're worried about him because he's in a room that has a balcony. So clearly they were concerned enough to contact police, and fears that were well-founded. Of course, he was discovered in the courtroom, the courtroom floor of that Buenos Aires hotel room that has then really sparked this outpouring of grief from millions of One Direction fans right around the world.
Joel, can I ask, a lot of the news services are saying that he did jump and it wasn't an accident. I mean, that they can't be making that claim without having some level of evidence. Do we know if there's footage, or do you know how they feel they have confirmation on that?
Well, police have said they are very confident there was no one else in the room. There were no injuries consistent with, foul play or someone having done this to him. The big question is, was he conscious or unconscious at the time? And again, that's where the toxicology comes into play. And you start to understand that, if he's conscious at the time, that leads you in one sad direction. If he's unconscious, then perhaps this was, he's had a slip. He's gone too hard on the drugs and alcohol that we know he had a well-publicised problem with, and perhaps this was just a really, really tragic accident. So these things take time, but, while that plays out, the grief is happening right around the world. It's front page news here in the UK. We've seen fans, not just in Buenos Aires, but also in his hometown, Wolverhampton, here in England. They have started to gather and sort of remember him and share their grief and shock at this news. His family, too, have put out a statement, fairly simple statement, that really says they are heartbroken by the news, and they now have the really tragic job of heading to Argentina that we know they are doing. There'll be some formalities, but of course, primarily, they'll want to bring Liam home so they can continue their grieving and ultimately lay him to rest.
Have we heard from the partner, Kate Cassidy, at all, Joel? She wasn't there at the time, was she? But has she made a statement?
No, nothing from her. We know that she, not long after that Instagram video that you played, not long after that, she returned home to the US. So there's a lot of speculation about whether that unprompted return to the US maybe sent him on a bit of a personal spiral that led to these tragic circumstances. The key people we haven't heard from are his former band members. No one from One Direction has publicly said anything. There is a thought that maybe they want to do something as a unit. Sometimes that happens. You know, we know when Matthew Perry died, the Friends cast members all got together and wanted to do it as a unit. So perhaps they're sort of formulating something. We will hear something in short course, but everyone will be keen to gauge their thoughts, and obviously they'll be heartbroken too. So a lot to play out in this, and however it falls, whatever the cause, whatever the circumstances, it won't change the fact that, you know, a 31-year-old father of one has sadly lost his life.
Joel, thank you, mate.
We appreciate it, Joel. That's Channel 7 News Europe correspondent there, Joel Dry from the UK. We're going to have more for you. It's in the 6:30 news.
Did you
Ash
see
will keep you updated.
Fitz, I think Harry's mum made a comment, and it just said, just a boy. And that's what it feels like, because we grew up with him from such an early age, and now being only 31, that's the tragic reality of what we're seeing here today.
Sorry, guys, I'm just reading over a post that has only come through in the last few minutes. One Direction has released a united official statement.
It's nice to see.
Yeah, it is. It's really classy. Louis, Zayn, Niall and Harry. I'll read it to you now. It's very sad. Of course, Liam Payne did pass yesterday, only about 24 hours ago now. We're completely devastated by the news of Liam's passing. In time, and when everyone is able to, there will be more to say. But for now, we will take some time to grieve and process the loss of our brother, who we love dearly. The memories we shared with him will be treasured forever. For now, our thoughts are with his family, his friends, and the fans who loved him alongside us. We will miss him terribly. We love you, Liam. Louis, Zayn, Niall and Harry.
Yeah, it's well worded and beautifully put together, and great to see the four of them on it as well, because we know they've had their differences over the years.
Yeah, well, I think in a moment like this, I think there are bigger things at play, and an acknowledgement of what those young men all went through together.
Do you know, we were talking earlier too, Kate, the comment that Harry's mum made when she heard the news, and she said, just a boy.
Yeah.
He's just a boy.
Louis has actually released his own statement. It is a lengthy one, and we will go through that a little later on the show. But yeah, there we have it.
Tough one.
This is the Fitzy and Whipper with Kate Ritchie podcast.
Former One Direction singer Liam Payne has died in Argentina.
The British musician's body was found outside a hotel.
We know that he returned to the hotel and that he was behaving erratically.
The authorities there have confirmed he died after falling from the building's third floor.
Yeah, it was confronting around this time yesterday when the news broke, and I think we were sort of 2 hours behind from the actual incident, where it was confirmed that Liam Payne had passed away, having fallen 3 stories from a hotel in Argentina. The photos out this morning are really concerning too, of what can only be a disturbed man at that moment in time.
Yeah, very distressing to see.
Yeah, it is distressing. That's the perfect word, Kate Ritchie. I want to go back to, we've had some fun with 1D over the years, you know, as a group, and then also after they broke up individually, they were awesome coming on this show. But I want to go back to 2008, because the band also talks about how great Liam was as a band member, but also how gifted he was musically. So this was 2008 X Factor, where he performed for the first time.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, and let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me.
Oh, you can hear the depth in the voice for a 15, 16-year-old.
It'd be quite nerve-wracking, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The audition of a lifetime.
He's tall, he looks good. He's out there in front. Simon Cowell's staring at him going, oh, my God, this guy's going to be huge.
The rumours were that the band was built around him, wasn't it? Like, he was the one, I think, with the strongest voice.
But there's a story also, because I think the year prior to that, he had performed, and Simon Cowell had said to him, you're not ready yet. Come back next year. And he came back and went, bang, you're right. But they heard that voice and then said, why don't we get all these individual boys together, form a group, let's call it One Direction. Awesome.
It still doesn't. This is the thing. I mean, how many carnations have there been of boy bands where it's like, it's never going. Majority of them don't work, but for that one, it just struck a chord globally. Like, I just couldn't believe the hysteria that when they first came to Australia.
Madness. And you know what? When people say they were bigger than the Beatles or they were like the Beatles, I've never seen anything like. In my lifetime, I've never seen anything like when 1D turned up.
No.
Well, the Taylor Swift hysteria at the start of this year was that was
big.
That was on that level, I think.
Yeah, but I think that's for a band, though.
Yeah,
there's different
the
dynamics
Screaming
to
Girls
it.
down the street, and they performed at the Logies one year. I was looking through some things last night, and I remember I was sitting in the makeup chair having my makeup done in the hotel, and wondering what on earth the noise was outside. And it was just, as the afternoon progressed, the crowd outside the hotel and it was just, this is in an airtight hotel.
Yeah.
And the screaming, not even knowing if the boys were in that hotel.
Well, when they came into our studio for the first time, I just could not believe that we were looking at 17, 18-year-old kids, right? And this fame was so instant around the world that we had girls camping out like for a day or two outside the building. Then the security guards around them, I remember they walked in, and remember Anna, our receptionist, and Harry took a bit of a shine to Anna, our receptionist, and I said to Whip and Tommy, I was like, it just blows your mind that when we were 17, I don't think I could handle anything like this.
And Anna had a boyfriend, because I think, Anna had a boyfriend at the time and said no to catching up with Harry for a drink. Regrets?
No.
I've had a few.
No. But you're right. I mean, the average teenager is going through such a huge part of development, but what they do have on their side is that they get to do it privately. These young boys, I watched the video on our show Instagram, and of course I wasn't part of the show then, and having the two of you, who I have to say were boys yourselves, just kind of, I don't know, these young men finding their way, but having to do it with all of the questions and all of the eyes and all of the judgment on them.
But you're right. We did an interview backstage one time, Tommy, if you remember. We went out to the stadium.
Yeah.
And they were just in a room, and it was just Harry and Niall. And we took along a Fitzy and Whipper football, like an Aussie rules football. So it was just kids hanging out backstage kicking the footy. Like they were just in the hallway kicking the footy.
Do you remember the one in the hotel room? And we had to submit our questions before we got there.
And then you made a drug reference, and we nearly got pulled by the...
It got bong bong. I was telling us about certain towns and
bong
stuff
bong,
around Australia, and so we had to submit our questions, Kate. And when we got there, we started the interview, and as a bit of an FU to the record company and that, I just sort of threw my piece of paper away and just started asking different questions.
Oh, you're such a rebel.
Because you know what? And this is the best thing about One Direction. They wouldn't have known anything about that stuff, and they were great. They're great interviews. Funny men.
You know, we spoke to Liam also individually, and this was great because he was always so honest too, and we spoke about becoming a dad, but also the transition from being in a band to then being a solo artist. This was the last time he joined us on the show.
The time when everything got most sketchy for me was when I became a solo artist, because the responsibility is more on you, and I just hadn't really figured out who the hell I was. So, being stuck in this position, and then you can't really there's no eject button, there's no stop button, you can't just turn it off, which just led me to making a load of stupid decisions, really, on a number of different things. As you are growing up. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, you do it in front of the world's media, and, we owe it all to ourselves to help them out a little bit more. As Everybody's just trying to, one, make a living, and two, provide some entertainment.
Yeah, honesty was easy for Liam. We've heard the statement from the band this morning who have come out, Louis, Zane, Niall and Harry, but also, I think it was Louis, was it?
Yeah,
Kate,
Louis Tomlinson has, as you said, One Direction has released their own united statement. Louis has been the first of the other boys to privately post something as well, and it's really moving. It's lengthy, and he starts, of course, by talking about Liam and the loss and saying that he looked up to Liam every day and that he was such a positive and fun and kind soul, which anybody can say, I guess. But then it gets much deeper and talks about their relationship that only the two of them perhaps would have known about. He's very upfront in... Sorry, Fitz.
Zane, as you are speaking, Kate, has just released his...
Has he? Do you want to update me on that?
Well, he just says, when I was missing home as a 17-year-old kid, you will always be there with a positive outlook and reassuring smile and let me know you were my friend and that I was loved. Even though that you were younger than me, you were always more sensible than me. You were headstrong, opinionated and gave no Fs about telling people when they were wrong. I hope that wherever you are right now, you are good and are at peace and you know how loved you are. Love you, bro. That's from Zane.
What did Louis write, Kate?
Well, it's funny you should touch... the feeling seems to be very similar.
Yep.
That they were so united. They were united through something so uniquely. And Louis' take on that was that his message to Liam, if he was listening, is what it says. I feel beyond lucky to have had you in my life, but I'm really struggling with the idea of saying goodbye. And I'm so grateful that we got even closer since the band, speaking on the phone for hours, reminiscing about all the thousands of amazing memories we had together is a luxury I thought I'd have with you for life. I would have loved to share the stage with you again, but it wasn't to be. And then he goes on to talk about Liam's son. I want you to know that if Bear ever needs me, I'll be the uncle he needs in his life and tell him stories of how amazing his dad was. Wish I got a chance to say goodbye and tell you one more time how much I loved you. Payno, my boy, one of my best friends, my brother, I love you.
Oh, it's crushing. Gives me goosebumps.
Jeez, the funeral's going to be very emotional, isn't it? When they all... Because they haven't been together. I dare say they haven't been together all together for such a long time.
But you're right, that was crushing yesterday with the thought of Bear, wasn't it?
Well, all I hoped was, and I know the news broke during our show, so it was morning for us and evening in the UK, and one of my first thoughts were that Bear is a 7-year-old young boy. He goes to school. I'm guessing he has an iPad like every other child in the world, and all I hoped was that he was either safe in bed with Mum or just with people he needed to be with, and it wasn't something said in the schoolyard, because I don't think, any 7-year-old boy deserves to hear about something like that from anyone but his mum.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Fits in Whipper with Kate Ritchie is a Nova podcast. For more great shows like this, download the Nova Player via the App Store or Google Play.
The Nova Player.